work out that particular thing, we'll send this out to you all as well. Okay, so first, how has COVID, all of this fun fiasco, affected your volunteer programs at your respective agencies? Please don't be shy here. Anybody can pitch in. Just unmute yourself and you can start.
I'll start, Patrick. So our entire service model has had to change because normally a good portion of us do face-to-face interaction. So even that part of what we're doing has changed. And that means that for us, it hasn't been too bad though, because we've just been able to shift to online. It's harder to get people materials that they would need, or to kind of assess some stuff that, to assess some things that people might need. And so that's been hard to figure out how to funnel volunteers into different roles. You know, it feels like every day you're kind of starting over or addressing exactly what you're doing at the moment versus having a kind of planned out strategy. But a lot of us work from home and are interfacing with our volunteers that way, so all the time. So it wasn't a huge challenge for us. But the people that we're serving's challenges have become a lot bigger. And that's changed the way that we're interacting with our volunteers. We're focusing a lot more on self-care and with checking in with everybody more than we used to. We kind of left that up to people to come to us for their needs before. But now it feels more important to be doing that on a regular basis and making sure that the people who are actually helping have all of their needs met first.
Who else wants to give us an update?
Hey, this is Emily from Chambliss Center. It's been a whirlwind of a few weeks. With most of our volunteers come and they're helping in our childcare classrooms or helping with indoor and outdoor maintenance type projects. And so that has all canceled for the time being. So that about a month ago, my week was filled with cancel all the things. And so lots of phone calls and connecting with volunteers. And then just trying to get the last few weeks have been just trying to get a feel for what projects we will need more immediately once we get back to whatever normal will be after this. So a lot of just thinking ahead and prioritizing needs that we will have that volunteers can help with and reaching out to those volunteers. I've been calling each of our volunteers individually, a few of them each day, just to say, hey, how are you doing? How's your family? Do you have everything that you need? Just trying to connect with them on more of a personal level and not as much of, you know, what do I need from you right now? Because I don't have anything for them right now, per se. So just trying to make those personal connections so that when we do come back to normal, that they're still engaged with our agency and know that we do care and we do want them to continue with us when this is over more than ever. We've also tried to, we're working on this right now with some of our teachers, but also our volunteers that come in with our Facebook page and Instagrams, just having them send, you know, well wishes to the kids that are at home, to the staff, you know, sharing a story, you know, virtually, things like that. And that, I think that helps volunteers feel still connected and that they can contribute. So we're really encouraging that, and hopefully we'll have some of those things coming through soon. But yeah, just a lot of, at least on my end, just a lot of planning for when this is over and what the priorities will be. And that seems to change daily. So that's what I have working on right now.
And unmute yourself if you want to talk, Sherry. I think you're unmuted, or you're muted over there. Click the bottom left-hand corner. If not, I'll try to unmute you.
Okay, am I unmuted now?
Yep, you're
Okay,
good.
There we
right.
go. I'm Robin Lopez, and I'm with Legal Aid of East Tennessee. So we do a lot of legal work for low-income families and people that have legal needs. So it's with the courts being mostly closed, that's our biggest obstacle. And all of our lawyers that we normally work with as volunteers, they have their own firms and their own paying clients that they're trying to take care of. So even their own ability to volunteer has just kind of slid down a little bit. However, because of all the situations, we have a lot of clients that are coming in that have issues with eviction notices or, just things like that where this crisis is really affecting them, but we don't have a way to fully help them because we're all working remotely ourselves. The courts are closed, and then volunteer attorneys are limited on their time. So it's just a vicious cycle, but we know that it's going to be even worse once everything does return to normal and the courts reopen. So.
Great, thanks for sharing.
Patrick,
Yes.
this is Evelina Holmes speaking. I am a community advocate, and my primary concern has to do with our most vulnerable, the seniors in our city or throughout the county, really. What I have been doing, working closely with Dr. Rebert with United Way, I'm on the Mayor's Council on Livability and Aging. So Dr. Rebert has been a jewel. She, along with Commissioner Jeter, have been able to provide me with the names and some of the telephone numbers of the seniors in East Chattanooga is where I'm starting. Hopefully we'll get to South and North and West Chattanooga. But we have about 14 neighborhoods in East Chattanooga, and we are just about through in getting the list of seniors. I'm working very closely with the UTC, Bachelor of Science Social Work students in that faculty, and actually calling these seniors. They have a script that Dr. Wick, who is the chair of gerontology at UTC and also the chair of the Mayor's Council on Livability and Aging. What we do is once the students complete their list, they write down the needs of the seniors, and they want to find out how are they doing and if they need anything. Because some of them are isolated and home alone, and we just wanted to know how they're doing. So they send that list to me. Those that actually need medicine, groceries, or whatever, that list goes to Dr. Wick. And she is working with various partners throughout the city with a host of resources just to help our seniors. So she takes care of that part. Those with that messages were left, they are referred to me. And I follow up with the presidents of the neighborhood association and giving them the names of those individuals to find out what their needs are, how they're doing. And they, in return, send that information back to me. We have some disconnected phones, and we have block leaders in some of these neighborhoods, so I assigned that task to them. And we're doing a fantastic job in trying to find out how our seniors are doing. But they are our most vulnerable. And I just think the people that are working with us, especially Dr. Raber at United Way and Commissioner Jeter and Dr. Wick at UTC, and God bless the UTC BSW students. They're out of school, they needed community service, and it was a very timely gesture for them to come in to help us.
So thank you, Dr. Holmes. Speaks to the great effort. A lot of people are sort of stepping in right now, especially students and universities, just to try to meet the needs of people in this direct response. I think university students in and of themselves are a great source to tap into. Most of their classes have been canceled, and so they are looking for things to actively get engaged in. I would say a lot of high school students are in the same boat, even though they're trying to finish their studies. There are some opportunity there as well. So All right, anybody else?
This is Jennifer Carter from Southern Adventist University. Is this the same as I'm gonna put a link with the city of Chattanooga for the senior phone bank, the virtual phone bank, because that's where our students have been volunteering through. I just posted it on, so I don't know because it's a little, I would think if it's not the same, we're double calling our seniors in the community, and they're probably not gonna be very happy getting all these multiple phone calls, but I just put the link there.
Yeah, so to answer your question, Jennifer, and I think Dr. Holmes can speak to this as well, Evelina, but the link that you just provided definitely is where the city is helping to organize the older adult phone bank to try to get information out to those older adults, specifically for those neighborhoods that I believe Dr. Rayberg has identified as the most in need for getting in touch. So I'm hoping that's the same one, but we understand that there's going to be some duplication of some effort. The task force in and of itself is organized. That's why we pulled that task force together, is to try to figure out what are areas that are not being addressed or where there are gaps. But so that's what that effort is for as well. So we'll talk about that specifically for sure in those task force meetings. So make sure you jump on those calls. But anybody else want to share about the impact that this has had on your volunteer program?
Well, Patrick, just to answer her question, we are working very closely with the city, and Brooke Satterfield is getting my list that I send out, and they have been asked not to duplicate the calls. We have the similar script that we are giving out, we're sharing with the seniors. So we're trying our best not to duplicate. We are the Mayor's Council on Livability and Aging, which is part of the city, and we are working together on this effort.
Hi guys, this is Lauren from the Salvation Army. So for us, what was going to, during a time that was going to be a very busy volunteer season for us, we've had to kind of shift gears. So we've primarily been doing a lot of repurposing of volunteer tasks and then redirecting volunteers as well. So in situations where we can think of creative solutions for people to help out. For example, we had a lot of Easter activities coming up this weekend with large groups and events. We found other ways, or a lot of times groups have self-initiated, and we just kind of open the dialogue of ways that they can still participate. So having folks put together care kits, Easter cards, and kind of assigning people pen pals to some of our current program participants. And then we see this as a really big kind of community effort too. So I've been redirecting our group volunteers and a lot of people who are still reaching out to the needs posted on the United Way COVID response page. So I know the food bank, you guys have been looking for folks, still all the kind of mobile distribution spaces. So definitely been trying to share the love for people who like to get out there and do hands-on things. And I definitely want to give a big shout out to Hannah Norman, who when this all first broke out was incredibly fast and responsive with making sure that any needs that we had as an organization or ways we were using volunteers were updated and checking in and connecting people. And as kind of everything was kind of evolving during the first couple of weeks, we're able to secure a lot of new volunteers who are now our primary helpers with the different projects we have going on.
Hey guys, I'll chime in there. Can everyone hear me okay? This is Hannah. Okay. To Lauren's point, Lauren, thank you so much for that compliment. And it is always my pleasure to serve you guys the best that I can. I just wanted to take a moment to remind all of you of the platform that is I Help Chattanooga. This is a free volunteer management platform that is available to all of you. And I help maintain that website on the back end and provide a lot of support to the agencies that utilize it. And additionally, there are currently over 14,000 individual volunteers in the community who find ways to engage through volunteerism through that website. And so I'm going to drop a link in the comments as an example of how the food bank actually is utilizing I Help Chattanooga currently to funnel their volunteers. This has allowed the food bank to see, for their volunteers to see in real time when volunteers are needed and how many volunteer spots are available. And it has been a huge game changer for them. And it has been our pleasure to help transition them to this platform during this time. And if any of you are interested to learn more or re-engage your current iHelp platform, I am the person that you need to contact, and I will be more than happy to assist you in that. So like I said, I'm going to drop a link for an example of how the food bank has been using this platform. And also my email is at the very top of this chat chain, and I'll drop it in the comments again as well.
Hi, this is Mark Schock with the Food Bank. Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah, I'd like to say that with Hannah helping us out with this, the iHelp link, it has been a game changer for the Chattanooga Food Bank. Probably 95% of our volunteers have backed off because they are mostly a mature group. We get a lot of corporate helpers also, and they, of course, have suspended all volunteering activities, and also schools now have backed off. So again, Hannah contacted me immediately. She got me set up, the Chattanooga Area Food Bank set up on this, and it's been a huge, huge help to us. We went from giving out about 60 emergency food boxes a day to well over 100. So those volunteers are so needed. And fortunately, also with iHelp, we've been able to get the volunteers in there.
Hey, quick question for you. So this is Madison from Habitat, and we have canceled all volunteerism. We've closed down both of our stores and closed down all volunteers on site. And I am curious how you are handling your social precautions with volunteers right now.
Was that a question for the food bank?
I think it's for everybody.
For everyone.
I'm Sharon Collins. I'm the coordinator of volunteers at Chattanooga Room in the Inn. And what we do as far as volunteers, we've not getting many volunteers at this point. What we are doing is practicing safety first, not just with the ladies and children that live at the shelter and staff, but also any volunteers that bring dinner into the building, or we've asked them to, even if they don't want to come in and get their temperature, they can stay at the door, or we can come out to the car, because we really depend on the food that comes in each day for the ladies and children. So we do the temperatures. And as far as our clients are concerned, when they leave the building, we take their temperature. When they come back into the facility, again, we take their temperature. When we leave, staff takes temperatures. And also they have to shower immediately when they come into the building. And the clothes that they wore, they have to wash them immediately in hot water. So we are practicing safety first. And we really love our volunteers, and the food preparers have really come forward for us. So that is the main volunteers that we have right now in our program.
I can speak to this just with the conversations that I've had with a few volunteer coordinators across the city. So it's important to remember that many of you are essential organizations, and so therefore volunteers are allowed to go volunteer at your agency. And one specific thing that we've started to implement with the food bank actually is we have provided language in all volunteer reminder emails that lays out, you know, what the executive order said, and yes, you're allowed to go volunteer because this agency is essential, and lays out all of that information that they need to know. And then we also encourage folks to print out that email if that would make them feel comfortable traveling to and from volunteering. A lot of agencies have lowered the number of volunteers that they allow in their space to comply with social distancing and the square footage of their building as much as they can. I know several agencies, like you mentioned, are taking temperatures of volunteers when they show up. I'm getting a lot of questions about masks and gloves, and I think, you know, agencies are providing those as they have them available. Outside of that, I haven't heard much of anything else, but I think the most important thing for us to remember is most of the organizations here represented today are essential. Therefore, volunteers can go volunteer at your agency.
Thank you guys for answering those. I know at least at Habitat, there's a lot of apprehension about bringing volunteers back, especially because coronavirus can be spread whenever you are asymptomatic and not having a fever. And so I was just curious what measures everyone's taking. So thank you.
Hey, hi Madison and everybody. This is Sherry from Welcome Home. Of course, we're a hospice home, and about mid-March, we sent all of our volunteers home. We missed them terribly, but our staff has kind of picked up and they've all gone above and beyond. We're all just working together to make sure the shifts are covered and that our people are taken care of. About 2 weeks ago, we suspended our dinner club, and that's kind of similar to what Critty is doing with people bringing in meals. But with the learning more and more about the virus and the illness and how frail and vulnerable our residents are, we decided that it was best to suspend that dinner club. And so we're all having to take turns cooking, and we're all figuring out which ones of us can cook and which ones can't. So that's been very interesting. I know that at first we were going with the temperature taking, but like you said, with Habitat Medicine, that people, once you have a temperature, it's already too late. You've already kind of put people at risk of catching it. And so those folks can still be carrying the virus even if they don't have a temperature. Once you're showing signs, you've already kind of spread it to all of your connections, more than likely. So what we are doing with our volunteers, because we are so in love with them, we're just a big family here at Welcome Home. We know all of our volunteers very well. Many of them have been with us for years, and so we've been FaceTiming them on Facebook. We've been calling whoever shows up, like for today, whoever usually volunteers on Wednesday, we'll call them, and they seem to be very happy to get the phone call, and it actually seems to be bringing us closer together, just making those phone calls. I know Chambliss was saying that they were doing that too, and I just get the feeling that it's brought us all closer together. Thank you.
I'm just going to add one more comment. I think it's also just up to every agency what they're able to do and what they're not able to do based on their capacity. For instance, the YMCA, the food bank, Hamilton County School efforts, they literally would not be able to function and provide the services that they're providing without volunteers. And so that's kind of why they're not really given an option as to if they can engage volunteers or not. And so I think it's just up to the discretion of each individual agency as well. But Madison, you brought up a very good point, and I think it's something that's at the forefront of all of our minds through all of this. And a lot of it is just stepping out on faith and hoping for the best in this difficult time.
Also, just in light of all of that sort of thing, I just put this in the chat as well, but as you guys are trying to think about how to engage volunteers in light of the risk that it might cause for those volunteers if they do volunteer with you, just to make sure that you are thinking through the risk management protocols, and if there are any, and I don't know if there are any legal ramifications if someone were to get the virus while performing a volunteer duty. You know, has that been sort of spelled out in advance? Things like that you need to think through as well, and just be cautious and aware of. So make sure you're talking to your senior leaders at your agencies, and if you need assistance or they need assistance with touching base with, you know, are there legal representatives who might give some guidance towards that, just let us know. We can try to connect you with some people as well.
And I'll add on to that, if you're working closely with volunteers and you got coronavirus from a volunteer, how would that affect your organization?
Yeah, for example, I know Hannah was just talking about the need for places like the food bank. They absolutely need and require volunteers. So they are trying to do their best to come up with a emergency plan. So if someone were to get sick, a volunteer were to get sick and then showed up, or they didn't know and there was somewhat of an outbreak, what is the protocol and plan of action for their whatever action or whatever service they're providing now will have to be shut down. And so what is the protocol for who's going to pick that up? So making sure that there are like-minded organizations that have some type of distance or barrier in between the two of you guys, so that you can pick up or drop off if needed on those needs to address in the community as well. And what else? What else is going on with all of you?
I would say I'm with Northside Neighborhood House, and we're likely in the same boat as Madison and the Chambliss Center as well. A large majority of our volunteer staff are of a mature age, and they are helping out with our thrift stores. Naturally, with our thrift stores shutting down, we have decided to kind of furlough those volunteers at that time. And then the rest of our volunteers are located in our community school settings as well. And so with Hamilton County Schools shutting down, they're on furlough as well. But the question that I would have and pose for you all, I'm just curious if you guys would just speak to it in the chat. When you're contacting these volunteers for your agency, is there a frequency in which you're contacting volunteers? And also, is there a way, or in what ways are you and your agency helping support those volunteers as their needs arise?
Hi, this is Amy. I'm from the Chattanooga Symphony. And of course, we don't have any performances and our season has been canceled. So we don't see our volunteers anymore. We have about 100. And so to your question, I've been kind of halving up who I send a letter to, just a little note, and who I might call. So I'm kind of calling the volunteers that we see a lot, that we see at almost every concert. and then just sending out a note to touch base with those that maybe I haven't seen since the fall, or, you know, that aren't quite as active, just to keep the lines of communication open.
Yeah, what I'm doing is I'm emailing volunteers about every week or two. So far it's been weekly on Fridays, and just giving them an update of, because the status with Chambliss has changed over the last few weeks, so just kind of giving them updated status, and you know, if they still want to, you know, be involved, you know, here's a menu of options to be involved. Send me a video, we can post it online. You know, you're not coming every week. Would you be interested in becoming, we have a monthly giving program, so give $5 a month for our monthly giving program instead of your gas money to get to us to volunteer. So we've had a couple people do that. It was a very soft ask, but it does help to build that up. And then just other ways, letting them know that there are opportunities once this is over that will really need their help. So I just kind of remind that and put that in front of them each week. And then each day I call about 5 to 8 volunteers on the phone, especially the ones that are more regular in our organization, and just checking in on them. It's exhausting, to be honest. So I try to limit it because, you know, you hear everybody's stories. Thankfully, I haven't had anyone that's been diagnosed with the virus, but, you know, everyone's really going crazy in their houses. And so when you hear that 5-8 times a day from other people, you kind of get a little bit of compassion fatigue. And so you take a break, and I just pick it up the next day. But just trying to, you know, weekly emails, and then just calling a few people. And I've only called them once. I'm not going to call multiple times unless I feel like they need another call.
I think that's a super fine balance, because people are getting overwhelmed with a lot of Zooms and a lot of different kinds of, my emails have increased exponentially. And I think it's hard to know, you know, what is enough and what is too much.
This is Sydney with St. Alexis Outreach, and we've still been using our volunteers, and I've made it pretty clear to them that it's really important that we serve older adults, and so we can do a lot of work in reducing isolation and loneliness over the phone. We asked our volunteers to step up their phone calls, and then also provided opportunities for them to connect with the city to make additional calls through the phone bank. We are considering having volunteers make some deliveries for us, but that would be, you know, they drive up, we put the supplies in their car, and then they leave it on a front porch and call the individual. So it would be no contact if we were to do that. I will echo what Sarah's saying. I have gotten a million emails, and sifting through what's important and what's not has been difficult. So I've been emailing my volunteers weekly, but then also just making myself more available for them to reach out to me if a need arises, and making sure their anxiety is heightened, especially like if a problem comes up with a participant. So I've been making sure to reach out to them immediately if they've expressed any concern to me. So mainly just knowing I'm available has been my strategy.
Patrick, you need to unmute.
What? Oh, that fine words I just was saying. You know, I thought I was an expert at this. No, what I was just going to say is just that thinking through what are the big holes and gaps, right? That have revealed in our volunteer programs, that this thing has just revealed to us. Like now, if you were to restructure your volunteer program, thinking through how can we prepare for a crisis to the best of our ability, what do you need to do? Is there something you need to go back to the drawing board and in your volunteer packets and your volunteer structure, make sure that you address in some sort of way? I know Dr. Evans is listening in here, and she probably has a little bit to share about some of that and can offer some advice. But that's something for us to think through as we're kind of going out of this crisis. Right now, we're in crisis response mode, and that's what we need to be in. But as we sort of settle ourselves back down into our normal flow, we start re-entering our volunteers, and we start getting our efforts back up, and we have a little bit more time to look at our plans, like how might we start like reorganizing those plans to think through the process of another potential crisis in the future. Great. Well, guys, it is 4:20. We have about 10 minutes remaining, and I'll leave this open for people just to discuss. Are there any unique ways that or needs that you have that we might be of assistance? Are there any other ideas for a future webinar or a future aspect that you would like for us to address? You can drop them in the chat. You can speak to them out loud, or if you just have a question for everybody else, this is your chance to address that as well.
I'm Jennifer from Southern Adams University, for those of you who don't know me. So I had been looking for virtual opportunities for students to stay connected, and I was able to find the phone bank with the seniors, with the city, and then I found other things from around the world. So it's been kind of like an opportunity to find different things that I had not thought of before, right? One thing I'm thinking right now is this may be a good time where if you are looking to increase your volunteers numbers, maybe you can come up with something that people can do virtually right now, especially for the people for the nonprofits that have people connections. So maybe the writing of a letter. Who would not want to take 5-10 minutes to write a beautiful letter? So you catch them by doing something very simple right now, and they can send that to you so that you can send it in the food baskets, in the whatever, but by them now doing something minimal, maybe they get interested in later on actually being more active in your nonprofit. So just a little idea I was thinking.
I love that. I love that. That's a great thought, a great consideration of way to engage your volunteers and keep them going on doing some I think meaningful work as well. Let's spend just a few moments talking about you. How are all of you doing in light of all of this? Are you have you adjusted to the online work from home base? Are you getting the self-care needs addressed for yourselves? What about you? How are you all doing when it comes to all this? Nobody wants to talk about themselves.
I will talk. I'm doing terrible. I moved during this mess. I'm immunocompromised, so people are bringing things to me. I normally work at home, so I'm used to all of that jazz, and my kids are homeschooled, so I'm used to having them around all the time. But just the idea that there are so many unknowns and how to kind of plan for what's about to happen and how long it's going to be out there has been very hard for me to adjust to.
Actually, if I can hop in for a little bit, everything you just said, absolutely, totally. I must get 20 emails from students a day having panic attacks, and they're shocked when I'm like, yeah, professors are going through that too. Reach out. But I actually have been thinking about you all recently because my panic attack lately is, how are we supposed to be doing internships and trying to support you all over the summer and fall and possibly next year when I know what chaos you all are probably going through. And so feel free to get in touch with me if you need anything, if you need students to help with stuff, because I'm in the process of trying to figure out how to come up with backup plans on that, because I feel guilty sending students out to even waste your time at this point asking about, you know, volunteer internship activities, because, you know, they're getting a lot of, I don't even have time to talk to you right now, and I totally understand that. And so I'm just trying to figure out, you know, where do we try and help and where do we just stay out of your way at this point? So, you know, feel free to let me know if you need anything at this point.
No, I would also say, and that brings up a great point, Dr. Evans, is that, you know, there's probably not a more important time where we really need volunteers who have really good skills and also really deep level commitment to our organizations. Because I would imagine, like everybody else, most of our organizations have been financially impacted by this crisis, right? And so I know, for example, at United Way, we have a hiring freeze right now. Several of our Venture Forward members organizations have had to lay off a lot of their staff. Well, that definitely brings up the need of who takes the place of fulfilling those actions that those staff members were once doing. Well, volunteers are the natural people that, you know, we're going to turn to, or increase our current staff's number of hours that they're working, which I would imagine all of you are in that boat as well. So something also to think through is just how to prepare volunteers to really be able to step in when needed, and, you know, in times like this. So that might be something to think through as well. And I do feel like, especially unfortunately, in our particular case, a lot of interns that end up, you know, serving with our agencies are not paid in general anyway. But you know, I think that's something that you can think through. There are other benefits that you can definitely provide to interns that still might be very appealing to them. So, and nowadays with technology, there are so many opportunities for volunteers to continue to assist your work virtually. So consider that as well. And that's something that we could actually help you out with. Well, wonderful. I'm gonna share my screen one more time and make sure that, whoops, I'm not pressing the right buttons here. Boom, there we go. Again, this is our information. If you want to reach back out to us, follow us on all of our channels. If you have follow-up questions, I will try to send this recording out to those of you who have registered through this. And that way, if you miss something, you can get that as well. If you have any other ideas or questions, please reach out to us. That's why we're here, is to help support all of you. And one thing just so you know about, if you didn't see this, tomorrow, Thursday, towards the end of the day, we're going to do a nonprofit leader happy hour. So literally, this is your time to grab your favorite beverage and maybe, you know, have an opportunity to spread some good news rather than always turning on your news or addressing all the current needs. So make sure that you join us for that. You can register on our Venture Forward Now page as well. But join us for that. It should be a fun time, and hopefully we can actually get to see some more smiles than sad faces and deal with all the hard aspects about all this as well. Again, thank you for joining us. Sarah, I don't know if you have anything else you'd like to mention before we hop off. You're muted.
Sorry, I couldn't get expanded. I was just going to say that I can't attach a PDF here, but I'll send it to you and you can share it with the recording if you would like. And that'll have all the information if they have any questions about DOVIA. And thank you so much.
Really good. Well, thank you guys. I'll stay on here for a little bit in case anybody has any other private questions or things that you want to ask. Other than that, have a wonderful afternoon. Keep up the great work, and we'll see you next time.